Alex is 22 when he starts work in 1992. A pension paying $2,000 a month for life at 65 sounds like a modest retirement check. But in one 2022 annuity comparison, reproducing roughly that same income privately could require about $330,000 to $351,000. Alex enters work just as responsibility for building that hidden asset is moving from employer to employee. We are going to price that promise, follow Alex through the handoff, then break the easy story that Gen X simply failed to save. Was the new contract actually worse? Call that hidden asset the replacement number. That estimate assumes $24,000 a year beginning at 65. No cost of living adjustment, no survivor benefit, and the price changes with interest rates. But the number makes the old contract visible. Under a traditional pension, the worker is promised an income formula. The employer and pension plan manage the pool behind it. If markets disappoint, the worker does not normally receive a smaller check just because stocks had a bad year. If the worker lives to 95, the pension does not run out at 87. Much of the investment risk and longevity risk sits with the plan. Call this the promise. The worker sees the check. The employer has to manage the machinery behind it. Then comes the handoff. Here is the strange part. The rule that became the 401k was not designed as a grand national replacement for pensions. It grew out of a tax code provision created in 1978. Employers began adopting 401ks broadly in the early 1980s, and by 1995, among workers at large establishments, defined contribution participation had overtaken defined benefit participation. Alex is 25. The handoff is already happening. Under the new contract, Alex gets an individual account. His own contributions belong to him immediately. The account can move with him through a rollover. That portability is a real advantage. Traditional pensions can punish mobility. Federal rules have allowed pension vesting periods as long as 5 years. Leave too early, and a promised future benefit may never become yours. But portability does not mean every dollar visible in a 401k is automatically yours either. Vanguard found that at plans with vesting schedules, roughly 30% of job separations triggered a forfeiture. On average, departing workers forfeited about 40% of the employer-funded portion involved. Same job change, different retirement contract. So pensions are not automatically better, and 401ks are not frictionless. The new system solves a real problem, but it changes who owns the work. The employer no longer has to promise Alex a specific monthly retirement check. Alex has to build the replacement number himself. Choose how much to contribute. Choose investments. Pay the fees. Stay invested through crashes. Avoid draining the account. Then turn whatever balance survives into income that may need to last 30 years. The 401k gives Alex the asset. It also gives Alex the risk. Today, many plans automatically enroll workers, raise contributions over time, and default them into diversified target date funds. Call those defaults the safety rails. The handoff arrived before them. Those features were not normal when Alex started. The Pension Protection Act of 2006 gave employers much clearer legal support for automatic enrollment and target date defaults. The oldest Gen X worker was already 41. The youngest was 26. Alex is 36. That timing matters because plan design changes behavior dramatically. At firms studied in automatic enrollment research, participation that had been roughly 26 to 43% under opt-in systems jumped to 85% or more after automatic enrollment. Nothing about the worker's salary changed. The default did. That is one of the strongest arguments against the idea that Gen X simply lacked discipline, and the redesign is still happening. Beginning in 2025, many newly created retirement plans became subject to mandatory automatic enrollment under Secure 2.0. The safety rails were still being installed as the oldest Gen X workers entered their 60s. Early in the handoff, the system often waited for the worker to act. Later, the system began acting first. Now split one account into two futures. Use the Department of Labor's own fee example. Start with $25,000. Assume 7% investment returns before fees. No new contributions, 35 years. At a 0.5% annual fee, the account ends near $227,000. At 1.5%, it ends near $163,000. Same starting money, same market return, 1 percentage point in annual fees. About $64,000 disappears from the ending balance, roughly 28%. The worker did not panic. The market did not crash. The retirement contract was simply more expensive. Now, break the clean model. Alex turns 30 during the dot-com collapse. At 38, the financial crisis arrives. The S&P 500 falls 37% in 2008. Across 401ks and IRAs, roughly $2.4 trillion was lost in the final 2 quarters of that year in one widely cited analysis. This looks like the obvious verdict. The employer moved market risk to the worker, then the market collapsed. But the data contains a reversal. EBRI found that some workers with only a few years of tenure still finished 2008 with higher account balances. Their new contributions were large compared with what they had already accumulated. The market fell. They kept buying. Their balance could still rise. So the crash alone was not the worst case. The worst combination is a crash plus a job loss. In one future, Alex keeps working and keeps contributing while prices are low. In the other, the paycheck stops. So do the contributions. And the portable retirement account may suddenly become money for current expenses. That is flexibility a pension usually does not offer. It is also a new way to damage the replacement number. In 2020, Alex is 50. The CARES Act allowed qualifying workers to take up to $100,000 in coronavirus-related retirement distributions without the normal 10% early withdrawal penalty. Workers ages 35 to 54 took 56% of those distributions. That age band overlapped most of Gen X. The account could rescue the household today, but every dollar removed was a dollar no longer working for retirement tomorrow. If the story stopped here, pensions would seem like the obvious winner. That would also be too simple. Within weeks of each other in late 2005 and early 2006, IBM and Verizon announced freezes to legacy pension plans. A pension can be valuable without being permanent. It can stop accruing. Its value can depend heavily on tenure. A worker can leave before vesting. A freeze can arrive before the highest earning years that would have made the formula most valuable. And federal pension insurance has limits. The promise carried risks too. They were simply different risks. This is where the title needs to survive its own test. Gen X did not cause the pension decline. Boomers experienced it too. Defined benefit participation was already falling during boomers' working years. Gen X also did not uniquely destroy pensions by job hopping. Median job tenure for workers ages 25 to 34 was about 3 years in 1983, 2.6 years in 2000, 2.7 in 2024. Almost no generational revolution at all. So the trap is not that a uniquely restless generation walked away from a perfect pension system. The trap is timing. By March 2025, 70% of private industry workers had access to a defined contribution plan. Only 14% had access to a defined benefit plan. That is now the normal retirement contract. But Gen X did not receive the mature version for an entire career. Older Gen X workers spent roughly 2 decades in the workforce before the modern safety rails became common. Younger Gen X workers encountered them much earlier. Even inside one generation, the handoff happened differently, and Gen X is not uniformly broke. Among Fidelity 401k participants, the average Gen X balance reached about $222,000 by the end of 2025, and their average total savings rate, including employer contributions, was about 15.4% of pay, slightly above Fidelity's own 15% guideline. That is a provider average, not the balance or behavior of the typical American household. It does not erase the years before the safety rails, but it makes the idea that Gen X simply refused to save much harder to defend. By 2026, the oldest Gen X members are already past 61. This is no longer a distant retirement experiment. So was Gen X actually trapped between 2 retirement systems? Not because every boomer received a pension. They did not. Not because a 401k is inherently worse. It is portable, individually owned, and flexible. And not because pensions disappeared on one date. They declined over decades. The trap was that the handoff came before the safety rails. Gen X entered after the promise had begun shrinking, but before the worker-owned system had finished developing the defaults that make it easier to use. The oldest workers got fewer of those protections. The youngest got more. All of them increasingly owned the investment risk, fee risk, contribution risk, and longevity risk themselves. If you are Gen X, look at the first retirement plan you were offered. Pension, 401k, both, or neither. Put the year you started working and the plan in the comments. Then, return to the replacement number. Under the promise, the employer had to fund and manage enough assets to produce the retirement check. After the handoff, the worker increasingly had to accumulate, invest, protect, and eventually convert that financial value personally. The retirement benefit did not simply disappear. The ownership contract changed. Gen X was the first full career cohort to spend an entire working life discovering what that transfer actually costs.